Hello and a very warm welcome to BlockchainLab Drenthe. This is a special presentation for Dutch Blockchain Week 2020 about our motivation, experiences and insights in regards to developing an open source Self Sovereign Attendancy application on the IOTA public mainnet. But first, let me start with some service announcements. As you can see, this is not a standard Zoom, Teams, Skype meeting. We assume that in the last month you have been looking at small squares with people in them for probably a few hundred times and wanted to bring you something different. So we are live streaming this session with open broadcast software to YouTube. That makes it a lot harder to do. Lots of things can go wrong, but that is how we do things at BlockchainLab Drenthe. Like John F. Kennedy said, not because it's easy, but because it's hard. Everyone knows YouTube, but not everyone knows the chat in YouTube. And that's what we use so you can communicate with us. So when your live stream is not full screen, you will see at the right side or just beneath this video a chat window. You can log in. You have to log in because YouTube doesn't accept anonymous texts being written in the chat window. So you'll have to log in with the Gmail account, and then everything you typed will come instantly to all the screens which have our live stream showing. So be aware of it, that when you write something down, everybody can see and knows what you're doing. We will look at these live stream chats every few minutes and try to answer your questions and tell you everything we know. We are about sharing information. Now, I have a little bit explaining to do what BlockchainLab Drenthe is. BlockchainLab Drenthe is a non-profit foundation situated in the beautiful city of Emmen, and our goal is to be a lighthouse for students, entrepreneurs, governmental bodies when it comes to knowledge and experience in the field of distributed ledger technology. To do that, we do a lot of research, we develop applications ourselves, and we organize monthly meetups, and I will show you the invite for our next monthly meetup in a few minutes. Now, I have a co-host, and I will bring him into the stream. Jeroen Wester. Jeroen Wester is going to distract you when I'm pushing all kinds of buttons and help me answer all these hard questions. Jeroen, please introduce yourself, and could you tell what Bling is?
Yes. My name is Jeroen Wester. I'm one of the co-founders of the BlockchainLab Drenthe. And of course, I'm a technology fan and technology lover. And one of the nice things of BlockchainLab Drenthe is that we are focused at new technology, of course. And one of the nice things also is that the Blockchain Lab is participating in the Bling project. And the Bling project is a European project with 13 partners from 6 countries. And these partners, they come from the governmental field, like provinces or cities, and they come from universities. And together, these 13 partners are looking at the field of blockchain, and they have this big major question in between of them and say, what good can blockchain do for us? Well, of course, universities have a scientific question or a scientific assignment regarding to blockchain technology. But cities, they have these questions: how can we improve the service level that we have and use blockchain for that improvement of that service level? So we have this nice project that is aimed at looking at blockchain technology from different angles and trying to come up with new ways of implementing, using this technology for their own good. And that's a fun project to work in. And one of the things that we added to this project was the the idea for Self Sovereign Attendancy. That will be a major part of this presentation. Well, what do you think, Adi? Is that enough about the Blink project, or should I make more promotion for it? Because it's a wonderful project.
You can never have enough promotion.
Okay.
But I'll show the agenda first, and people can see that we're going to show them lots of things about Bling and about self-sovereign attendancy. So we're currently in the intro. I will show you the meetup invite. We have monthly meetups with internal and external speakers about technical and general topics. And we try to set up a network of speakers and attendants. After that meetup invite, Jeroen is going to talk about blockchain and when does it make sense. A little presentation. Then we come back, and if you have any questions typed into the chat, we will answer them. After that, I will have a presentation about self-sovereign attendancy, what it is and how we came to developing such an app. And if you have any questions, we will answer them, of course. And then I will do a technical deep dive. And don't worry, it's not going to be programming or whatever. I'm just going to show you how self-sovereign attendancy on a public mainnet works. And this little distinction on a public mainnet is something which makes a very big difference when you start developing. And because you have lots of things you have to take care of, that nobody from outside will use your application in a bad way. I will talk about that. Then we'll have some questions again and do a conclusion. I think, Jeroen, that we can start the presentation about the blockchain criteria.
Okay, good. Okay, this presentation is about blockchain. When does it make sense? There's a lot of talk about blockchain, of course, in the last couple of years. And there is even the accusation of being a hype. And then in a negative sense, blockchain is not making true its promises. But we provide you some help in order to decide whether blockchain is useful for your use case. Let's dive into it. First, there's this talk about blockchain technology, and in general, it does the following. It overpromises and it under-delivers. And you can see that all around you, you see a large list of Google search results about failed blockchain technology projects. Really fun to look at. And when you look at the stage of a number of blockchain technology-related projects, you can see that they are in many cases, they are early stage work. Blockchain technology frameworks are in an early stage. Projects are in an early stage. So in general, you could see that this is a field that is in danger. Not true. This is a brilliant field, but you need some guidance in order to decide whether you should use it or not. We will provide you with a little help. When you are in this field of blockchain technology, you probably come across these kind of pictures, and they are meant to help you decide whether blockchain technology is relevant for your project. The downside of these decision trees or matrices is that they are fairly complex. You need a lot of background knowledge and information in order to use them in the way that they are intended to be used. So that makes for newcomers in the field, it makes it hard to use these kinds of decision paths to decide whether blockchain technology is of use for your project. In the Drenthe Blockchain Lab, we made a far more simpler model. And let me show you that model. When should you consider blockchain? And this model is based around 3 questions that you need to answer. And these, when you have a yes on all these 3 questions, then you should consider blockchain technology as part of your project. Let's go over them. Well, the first one is, if you are in a situation where you only have one person that wants to store information, don't use blockchain. Don't do that. You need more people. You need far more people than one, many people, and then it makes sense to use blockchain. The second one is, when you trust and know the person that you want to exchange information with, don't use blockchain. Blockchain is meant for a situation where you don't know the other person, where you don't know the other party, and that you can, and that the blockchain network provides trust. The third one is, if you are in a situation where there is no incentive to commit fraud, stay away from blockchain. But on the other hand, if there is an incentive to commit fraud, consider blockchain as part of your solution. So wrapping this up, 3 questions. If all 3 are a yes, take a look at blockchain as part of your solution, as part of the technologies that you want to use in your situation. Well, how does this work? Let me give you a few examples. This is an example of a good choice. There is this blockchain early stage test pilot project in the Rotterdam Harbor, where they want to store documents, exchange transactions on the blockchain. Imagine you have parties like port authority, shipping company, transport companies, and in order to have a successful harbor, all these parties need to exchange information. And these parties, they don't know each other. They work together, but they don't really know each other, because every time there is a transaction, somebody else of that company or organization could be involved in that transaction. So they need to trust each other in order to have a successful transaction. And then we know from the Rotterdam Harbor, yes, there is an incentive to commit fraud. A network that keeps trust and truth is in need in this situation. So when you look at this pilot project, you see that the 3 questions that we have in our model are all 3 yes. So we would say this is good. Make use or consider blockchain technology as part of your solution, and they really do. Then there is another example where there might be a poor choice to use blockchain. In this project, it's around storing personal health information. And this health information is generated by using personal devices like watches. And these devices, they collect information on how many hours per day you walk or sit or whatever. And in this project, they use blockchain to store this personal information in a blockchain-like way. When you look at this project, using blockchain technology might not be a very wise decision. And why is that? Well, first of all, there is not really a need to exchange information. There's only a need to store the information on the blockchain. The second question is, well, people don't know each other. Yeah, that's true. So that's a yes. People don't know each other in this network, and they should not know each other. And the third question, is there an incentive to commit fraud in this situation? Well, there isn't. At least in the use case that they have at hand in the current stage of the project. Imagine that this project would evolve and that information would be shared with a health insurance company. Then this last question could change into a yes, because you could have an advantage to simulate healthy behavior with your watch, of course. But at the current state, this project just uses blockchain as a storage mechanism. So when you look at this project, you see 2 no's and 1 yes. Maybe you should not use blockchain as part of your pilot. And why is that? Because there are far more simpler solutions to do the same, to have the same functionality in your project. So they might reconsider using blockchain technology.
Okay, thank you. I got 2 messages on my WhatsApp. The first one was that I forgot to play the meetup invite. I will do that in a second. And I got a question. In that picture about blockchain decision paths, Yoon, it showed not only if you should use blockchain, but also if you should use permissioned or permissionless blockchains. What is the standpoint on that from BlockchainLab Drenthe?
Well, yeah, that's a very interesting question, of course, because it refers to different types of architectures or different approaches towards blockchain technology, towards the application of blockchain technology. Well, of course, the BlockchainLab Drenthe has a very pragmatic point of view on this, but there is a kind of preference. I think deep in our hearts, we are lovers of a permissionless public blockchain infrastructure. And why is that? Because it makes the auditability of a project far much better than when you have a private permissioned blockchain infrastructure. But then again, there are situations in which a permissioned private blockchain infrastructure is a perfectly good choice for your project. And so I think we say, okay, go for public, and if you, but if there are good reasons to go for private, okay, then use that. So we're not very activistic on this.
Yeah, rules and regulations around, for instance, GDPR sometimes make it nearly impossible to work with public mainnets. So in those cases, we try to minimize the impact by using a permissioned blockchain, a private blockchain. Okay, now I'm gonna show the meetup invite after all. Welcome at BlockchainLab Drenthe, where I would like to invite you to our next blockchain meetup on December 17th. As always, we have a very interesting number of topics for you. This time we have 2 external speakers. I will start the evening with talking about what's going on in the blockchain space, news about technology, cryptocurrencies, scams, and other developments. After me, Bernard van der Biesen will be our first external speaker of the evening. He is blockchain lead at the Institute for Finance and Accounting at the Utrecht University of Applied Sciences. He has a background as a research fellow of port economics at the Erasmus University Rotterdam and as a data engineer at the Statistics Netherlands, CBS. His field of expertise are data visualization and blockchain. Bernard will talk about using blockchain in the shipping world. He will show us the complexity in the current shipping process and will discuss with us the TradeLens solution for shipping documents that is currently being adopted by more and more shippers and ports all over the world. Our second external speaker is Harro Boven. Harro Boven works for DNB, the Dutch central bank, and he is heavily involved in experiments with central bank digital currencies. He will give a highly interactive presentation explaining what CBDC is and what it isn't. if you have any questions about central bank digital currencies, this is your chance to ask the expert. As I already explained, this is going to be a very interesting session, so use the link in the description to reserve your spot and join us Thursday, December 17th, 7 o'clock in the evening, online. Okay, well, what can I say? Our meetups are very popular. We try to have a highly interactive meetup. Like this live stream, you can ask questions on the YouTube chat, but afterwards we migrate from YouTube to Jitsi and have a large meeting with 20 people, discussions about topics and everything that has to do with blockchain. Okay, now let me explain you a little bit more about our Self Sovereign Attendancy app. How it was invented, what our motivation was, and for whom we are making this. So the project we are currently working on has the working title Self Sovereign Attendancy. It was induced by the frustration we have with attendancy lists and the problems they have with GDPR laws and regulations. And I think it would be a very good signal for Bling to let's call it eat your own dog food, use their own developed tools. So these attendees lists are the project we are working on, but we evolved a little bit from focusing on the organizer to focusing on the attendee, and hence the working title Self Sovereign Attendancy. Now, we've all seen these kind of flowcharts. Should I use a blockchain or not? Well, we use them too, but we also have our own rules of engagement. And there are three rules, three criteria, so to speak. First, there have to be several different parties involved in the project. Second, these parties must not know each other, or when they know each other, must not trust each other. And the third thing is, there must be an incentive to cheat the system, money-wise or otherwise. And always ask yourself the question, why do we need blockchain? In this project, we have several characteristics we use of blockchain. The first is decentralized storage. This allows us to be completely separate from any company. No company can monopolize the data. The project is open source and nobody can monopolize the data. Plus, having a decentralized database means a higher protection against data loss because the data is spread over all these servers. Immutability means a higher level of trust. And transparency and cryptographically safe, we use these characteristics to check the data, distribute the data on a need-to-know basis, and we use zero-knowledge proof. And we do all this on a public mainnet. Right? Now, I hear you thinking, public mainnet, personal data, GDPR, that doesn't mix. But I think we found a way. And it has many advantages. For instance, we don't have any infrastructure costs. Right? We don't have servers where Hyperledger is running. We use public servers, a public mainnet. We have very high availability, a very good scalability because of this infrastructure. And because it's permissionless, and we use IOTA Tangle, everyone can use it without any cost. Now, to explain how it works, we made a little animation film for you.
Sometimes attendees need to prove to verifiers that they attended an event, course or conference. For example, for accreditation of medical personnel, accountants, financial specialists, students, and everyone who must prove personal education points. Event organizers like to use attendance sheets or pictures to register attendancy. GDPR law makes these sheets hard to use. BlockchainLab researched how to make registration GDPR proof. Is it possible to show tamper-free proof of attendancy? Can verifiers trust the attendee? Can verifiers be sure that the attendees listed were really at the event and worked out a solution? How our blockchain solution works. Decentralized, transparent, immutable, and cryptographically safe sharing of data on a need-to-know basis. Step 1. Event organizer, Isaac, registers an event on the blockchain and creates a unique event key. Step 2. A. The phone of the attendee, Harry, picks up the Bluetooth key at the event or the QR code for an online event. B. Generates a unique key. C. Uses it to access the blockchain. D. Register and store a certificate locally on Harry's phone. Step 3. The organizer closes the event to prevent misuse. Step 4. With the event wallet on his phone, Harry is able to verify 24/7 that he was present at a certain event, date, time, location without revealing his identity details. Step 5. The verifier, Victor, can test the validity of event attendancy on the blockchain without having access to attendee Harry's identity details. A blockchain solution with maximum transparency while retaining maximum privacy.
So the event organizer uses his phone to register his event on the blockchain. And after that, his phone turns into a Bluetooth beacon, which transmits a secret key every second. This Bluetooth signal has a radius of 30 meters approximately. So everybody who enters the room can use his phone to receive this secret key and go with the app on the blockchain to see the event that was planned. Or you can use a QR code. When it is an online event, you can scan the code on your screen and then connect to the internet and get the information about the event. So you see there is a number of things. There is Isaac, the issuer, the organizer, that communicates with the blockchain. There is the attendee, Harry, the holder of the certificate. And there is the controller, Victor, the verifier, that communicates with the blockchain. Yoon will now tell you a little how this all works in the app.
Okay, I'm going to give you a sneak preview of what the app could look like that we are creating. First, let me tell you what roles are involved in this app. We have the attendee role, event organizer, and controller role. And they are named Harry, Isaac, and Victor. Harry after the holder, Isaac after the issuer, and Victor after the verifier. All three roles have to log in when you look at the next screen. And when Harry, he will attend a meeting. After he has logged in, Harry will see that he can make a selection to register for a meeting. And when he makes this selection to register for a meeting, he will see that there are 2 meetings present in his app. And these meetings pop up in the app because Harry is near a Bluetooth beacon that sends out a signal and the app picks it up, or that the app has scanned a QR code for an online meeting. Harry makes a selection for the first meeting. It's the Bling meeting in Edinburgh. We are not in Edinburgh. We are online, of course, but in this example, Harry attends the meeting in Edinburgh, and he pushes the button, "I'm here." He gets a confirmation of his registration. You successfully registered for your attendance. Okay, now we go to switch to another role. Imagine that here's Victor, and he wants to know who was present at a meeting. He makes a selection to verify attendancy. He also has a list of meetings that for which the attendancy can be verified, and he makes a selection for the BlockchainLab Drenthe meetup in January 2020. Then he gets a screen in which he sees a list of undisclosed attendance for this meeting. Maybe this is enough. Maybe you just want to see, I want to see the total number of people that attended this meeting. But he can also push the question mark button and ask an attendant to disclose the personal details. Now, imagine that Harry is one of these attendants for this meeting. Harry is then asked in his app to disclose his personal details. There's a blue marker for BlockchainLab Drenthe Meetup January 2020. It's a verification request. Okay, Harry pushes that button, and he pushes the button again for verify, and now the verifier, Victor, will receive the personal details.
So, no personal data is stored on the blockchain. Every event has a new, unique key, and every person has a new, unique key for every new event. So, no inference or singling out is possible. The proof can be provided to the verifier on two levels. As an anonymous number, a hash base that can be checked on the attendee list, or with full information about the person and the location and the time which generated the hash base. All communication is pull-based, not push-based, like we are used to with an email which I send to you. And as an added bonus, the organizer can attach messages, sheets, etc. to the event after the event, without knowing who attended, because the attendee will pull the information from the blockchain. The attendee has a wallet with all his or her events, courses, conferences, etc. On his phone, and he can decide to share this information with anyone 24/7 without the need to contact any organizer. Self-sovereign. The organizer can use his phone to prove X persons attended the event. And while staying anonymous, the organizer can still reach out to the attendees. The verifier can use his phone to have proof that a certain person attended a certain conference, course, or event, for example, for accreditation or personal education points. Okay, I see one question in our chat by Happy Dancer. If there is no cost to usage, what incentivizes miners or minters to create blocks? Well, IOTA works a little bit different. For instance, there is no minting going on. All IOTAs have been minted directly at the start. And miners, there are no miners in IOTA. I will explain in a moment in our technical deep dive, but the user is also the miner, which is a brilliant concept, I think. Okay, if there are no more other questions, we're going to go to the technical deep dive. And don't worry, there's no programming and no arithmetic involved. Now, in this deep dive, I'm going to give you full disclosure of the data flow in our Self Sovereign Attendancy app. But to do so, I will have to explain a few things about IOTA first. IOTA is what I would call a third generation distributed ledger, where Bitcoin blockchain and the Ethereum blockchain being 1.0 and 2.0, right? The conventional Bitcoin blockchain stores transactions in blocks, and those blocks are chained. The second generation Ethereum still had blocks, but stores value and has smart contracts. And the third generation, being IOTA, doesn't have blocks, doesn't have miners, doesn't have transaction fees, etc. It's something completely different, and it was developed with machine-to-machine economy in mind. Now, in this picture, you see some of the characteristics. It is highly scalable. It has very low resource requirements. It can run on your phone. It has zero-fee transactions, and I'll explain that in a moment. It has very fast transactions. It has optional quantum robustness, and everybody knows quantum computing is around the corner and will be there in maybe 10, 20 years. So it's very good to be prepared, and IOTA is. And it's globally distributed. Now, I told you about the difference in the setup. On the right, you see the conventional blockchain, like I said, with information in blocks chained together. That's how Bitcoin and Ethereum still work. And on the left, you see the IOTA tangle. It looks a little bit like a chaotic parallel number of blockchains, where every block is only one transaction. And what you can clearly see is that every transaction confirms two other transactions, right? So every transaction you do, you will confirm two other transactions, which means that the flywheel on your distributed ledger will start spinning faster and faster. The more transactions you put in, the more confirmations there will be. So scalability is very, very high, right? Here you see a comparison between conventional blockchains and the IOTA tangle. In conventional blockchains, you have miners and users, right? And sometimes there is a conflict of interest. Maybe you can recall some time ago where people were looking for a solution to make a higher transaction speed on Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? They wanted to increase the block size by 8 on Bitcoin, increasing the transaction speed from 7 to 56 transactions per second. The miners didn't want that. They said, well, we're not going to do 8 times as much work for the same money. So they rejected that adjustment, hence there was a conflict of interest. Now, down on the second half of the screen, you see the tangle. And in the tangle, there are no separate miners. In the tangle, you are your own miner. You mine two other transactions with your transaction, with your phone, right? So more activity is more validation, and that flywheel is going faster and faster. Because you are your own miner, there can never be a conflict of interest. And because you are your own miner, you don't have any transaction fees, right? Now, another thing I have to explain on the IOTA tangle, you have something which is called masked authenticated messaging. And masked authenticated messaging, which means that you have a linked list of messages you can store on the tangle. And you can store data on the tangle much better and faster than you can do that on other chains. So imagine you have a root address and you put a message with data on the tangle. Within that message, you also have the pointer to the next message. And that has the pointer to the next message. That is what's called a public MAM. And you see that in the second picture, right? But what you can also do is have a restricted or private MAM. There you have a root address and there you have a message, but that message is encrypted. Only if you have the password, you can decrypt that message. And within that message is the link to the next message. So if you don't have the password, you will never ever find the next message block. Right? You can even change the password along the way and fork the message channel. Now we're going to use some of that in our Self Sovereign Attendancy app. To explain how our app works, I'll start with this picture. Here you see an attendee wallet and an organizer wallet. They are both empty, and we'll start with putting some personal information in the attendee wallet. This is information that is stored on the phone, and it will never travel over the internet or be stored on the Tangle. This is one of the things which makes it GDPR proof. We'll start with the organizer. He is planning to organize an event, and he starts a MAM in his wallet. With a root address he will generate, and he will generate a first record of information with a private and a public key for the event and some other information. The next thing he will do is put the second record on there, which is encrypted with a very common key. I'll explain that later also. That is the event info. Where is the event? Time, date, location, etc. And he will also generate a seed, and that seed will be publicized in a QR code or through his phone's Bluetooth device. It will be transmitted in the room. Now, that seed, like I said, when it's a physical event, can be picked up by the attendee's phone. Or if it's an online event, you can scan the QR code on your screen. That seed will be the basis for an address which points to the event info. And it will also be the basis for a registration address. But these two pointers which are generated from the seed have no connection. So you cannot get the registration address from the event info or vice versa. You need the seed to generate that, and the only way you can get that seed is to be present at that event. Now, the registration address points to an address on the Tangle where all the attendees will have their app store that they were present at the event. So that is what happens. The attendee walks into the room, takes his app, have his Bluetooth scanner scan, and he sees a seed key of the event. Or you scan the screen and you have the QR code, and the seed key goes into your phone, and your phone will look on the Tangle for the event info, and he will show you are currently at the Dutch Blockchain Week, Monday, 7th of December, 10:30, the BlockchainLab Drenthe event. Then you can decide, yes, I want to take that information into my wallet. And when you do, then your app makes a transaction on the Tangle, on the registration address, where he uses the public key from the organizer, which was stored in the event info, to store your unique ID for that event at that address. And not only you do that, but all the attendees store their encrypted event key at that address. The organizer, in the meantime, can look at that address and see how many people, in real time, how many people are registering their attendance. When that's done, let's say after 10-15 minutes, the organizer closes the event. He reads from that Tangle address who stored their information there and puts that information, those unique IDs, on his MAM, on his attendancy list, and he writes a closing message after that record. So now even if I walk into the room, or even if I scan that QR code, let's say we put this a little movie on YouTube, and you see the QR code, you think, okay, yes, I want to have some proof I attended that session. It's not going to work. You might do your transaction on the Tangle, on that registration address, but you're not on the attendee list. The attendee list is immutable, transparently stored on the Tangle with a closing address. So let's say the same evening or the next day, this is the situation. Harry, the holder, has his attendee wallet with the event info inside, and Oscar, the organizer, has his wallet which points to the MAM on the Tangle. Now, Harry wants to prove to Victor, the verifier, that he attended this event. And he will show Victor a QR code with the hash base of the unique key he stored on the attendee list. And he will provide Victor also with the link to the event info. So Victor will go on the Tangle, read out the event info. Okay, this was the event of the Dutch Blockchain Week on Monday the 7th. And he will check the attendee list if Harry's hash is on there. If so, we have proof that Harry attended the event. If not, then he has proof that he wasn't at that point in time at this event. Now, this is the situation after the event. The event is closed, and you see one extra record appended to the organizer MAM. The organizer has the possibility to link documents after the event was closed. Let's say I want to provide you with the sheets of this PowerPoint. Then I would need to know who you are, right? In the conventional way, then I would send you an email. Here's the PowerPoint. Have a nice day. But now this is GDPR proof. The organizer has no information who attended, only how many people attended. So he will put an extra link on the MAM, a link to the PowerPoint or a PDF or whatever. So the next time Harry opens his app will scan all the events in his wallet and look if there was appended an extra record for information, for documentation. Right? If so, he will signal it, and Harry has the possibility to retrieve that information. It is pull, not push. Right? What the organizer also can do, if there is an audit, he can put a request for information, a request for ID, on the end of his MAM. And the next time Harry opens his app will scan the MAM of the event, sees the request for ID, and see if the ID matches with Harry's ID, and then he will get a pop-up, and it'll say, well, the organizer would like to know who you are. Would you like to share this information, yes or no? Again, this is pull, not push. Here you can see how that works. So the app, Harry's app, will go to the MAM and scan for extra records. And here you see how the next event is going to be. Event 2 is ready in Harry's attendee wallet. Now, in a conventional blockchain, every one of these transactions would cost money, right? Storing your event on the chain, telling the organizer that you have been there. All these transactions would cost money, but on the IOTA Tangle, it doesn't. Because everybody who does a transaction mines 2 other transactions, so it's free. Okay. I hope this was as transparent as I intended it, and I hope it wasn't too technical. I don't see any questions in the chat window, so maybe Jeroen, you would like to summarize our meetup?
Yeah. Thanks, Avi. Well, just to give you a brief overview of the topics that we touched during this presentation. We started, of course, with a short introduction, and we explained a little bit about the nice Bling project that we participate in. BlockchainLab Drenthe participates in the Bling project. And then Adri, well, I mixed up things a bit, but you showed us, of course, the meetup invitation, which takes place December the 17th. So if you think this is interesting, you're interested in blockchain technology, you're interested in the application of blockchain technology and the implication for society, for instance, you're very welcome to visit our monthly meetup. You can subscribe for this meetup on meetup.com. Please type in something like BlockchainLab Drenthe, and then you will be guided to the meetup that takes place 17th. Adri.
I will link the link in the description of the YouTube movie, so people can find our meetup more easily.
That's very good. Okay, then the third topic that we touched upon during this presentation, that we showed you a very simple 3 criteria model that you can use in order to decide if blockchain would be a part of the solution for your project. And these 3 criteria, 3 simple questions that you can answer, will show you, okay, maybe I should consider blockchain technology. Then the 4th topic that we touched upon is the concept of self-sovereign attendancy. To go really to the center point here is that you want to show that you were present during some event, but you are the controller, the master of your own personal data. You decide what you want to share with others. So no unnecessary or forced sharing of personal data. You are in control. And the 5th topic that Ali talked us through was, well, he calls it the technical deep dive of this project, which is, of course, there are a lot of buzzwords and technology terms, but it was more a kind of architectural overview of how this could take place. And that's, in fact, very nice, because we showed you interesting topics, but we can also guide you through how you should develop these things. So it really can come to life. And that's nice. We try to have in the lab a kind of full stack approach or full service approach, and we help you generate the ideas, but we can also help you in implementing these ideas. I think that sums it up, Ali. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's correct. I want to add, we are very open about what we do in the lab. What we develop is open source. And we show you everything under the hood. That's what I try to do with this deep dive session, without programming, because that it adds more complexity. You don't see that very often. Most of the blockchain startups keep all this information for themselves, and of course they do, right? That's their edge onto the market. But we are not commercially involved. So being a non-profit, we share all our knowledge and experiences with whoever wants it. Okay. Then there is nothing left other than to thank you, and to thank the audience for attending. What I will do is I will do the invite movie again, so people know who is going to speak and about which topics, and then put on the end screen and close the stream. So thank you for your attendance, and hopefully see you on a meetup. Welcome at BlockchainLab Drenthe, where I would like to invite you to our next blockchain meetup on December 17th. As always, we have a very interesting number of topics for you. This time we have 2 external speakers. I will start the evening with talking about what's going on in the blockchain space, news about technology, cryptocurrencies, scams, and other developments. After me, Bernard van der Biesen will be our first external speaker of the evening. He is blockchain lead at the Institute for Finance and Accounting at the Utrecht University of Applied Sciences. He has a background as a research fellow of port economics at the Erasmus University Rotterdam and as a data engineer at the Statistics Netherlands, CBS. His field of expertise are data visualization and blockchain. Bernard will talk about using blockchain in the shipping world. He will show us the complexity in the current shipping process and will discuss with us the trade lens solution for shipping documents that is currently being adopted by more and more shippers and ports all over the world. Our second external speaker is Harro Boven. Harro Boven works for DNB, the Dutch central bank, and he is heavily involved in experiments with central bank digital currencies. He will give a highly interactive presentation explaining what CBDC is and what it isn't. If you have any questions about central bank digital currencies, this is your chance to ask the expert. As I already explained, this is going to be a very interesting session, so use the link in the description to reserve your spot and join us Thursday, December 17th, 7 o'clock in the evening, online.